All right, we'll get started here again. I want to thank you all for the privilege of sharing an area of science collecting that I have a very special interest in. And that's, can everybody hear okay?
Yep.
That's the area of Lithophanes and the hand-painted Lithophanes on the bottom of the steins. We'll be looking primarily today at this body style, conical lid, and this type of painting on the bottoms. I know it's hard for you to see back there now. You're going to be seeing a lot of slides of them. But this will be the primary one we're looking at. We will be looking at other items. But first, let me give you a little bit of the history of manufacturing of the lithophane. The Chinese developed the process many years ago, and they kept it secret along with their porcelain process. But the first European that developed this process was Paul du Bourgogne, and that was in 1827. He lived in Paris, France. Representative King Anton were so impressed with it, they bought some samples of it, took it back to the king. The king loved it. The king said he asked his porcelain manufacturing companies to produce this, but not to just produce a lithophane, but to produce a superior quality over the French. That's a big surprise, huh? He wanted a superior quality, he didn't want it just duplicated. So, one company in particular, Royal Porcelain Manufacturer, worked for a number of years, KPM, came up with a formula, which was 65.9 kaolin, 29.8 feldspar, and 4.3 soapstone. This produced a much more translucent product than what they'd seen in the past. And it's important to note at this point, these were all handmade at this time. The way the artist was making them was they poured the slip and waited till it became plastic or pliable, and the artist carved directly into the product. Of course, if there was any problem, the kiln or any problem with cracking, the artist's work was gone forever. So they knew a mold process had to be developed. So what they did is they used a piece of plate glass or glass, and they used pure beeswax. Pure beeswax reacts an awful lot like porcelain when light is exposed to it. So what they would do is they would carve. The deeper they carved into it, the more light showed through. And as the light shows through, and you vary the depth, you present the soft variations of black and white, which forms a picture that the artist is trying to create. I'll show you. This is one. I don't know how well you can see it. Not at all. Not at all. Okay. My daughter worked long and hard on this. Can you see it? It just says SCI. It's our logo.
I can see it,
but yeah, and you can, if you can see it. But anyway, you can see the graduation so that they're
Yeah.
This should be. Oh, you can look at it then and look at it at a light source, and you'll see the gradual variations with the depth. Afterwards, after that was created and was approved by the manufacturer, then plaster was poured, and you got a plaster mold. They could produce many lithophanes off of these plaster molds. And then they had to do was sharpen them. After they got a little bit dull, they would just sharpen the points and continue to produce. And this will be, anybody wants to look at it then later on. This is an actual lithophane mold. I was fortunate enough to find. There was many companies that produced these, but the Royal Porcelain manufacturer was one of the strongest producers. Between the years of 1834 and 1843, a 9-year period, they produced 136,000 lithophanes. That's an awful lot of lithophanes, and there must have been a huge market for it. And they continued to be strong producers throughout the 19th century and into the 20th century. There are many other companies. You have Minton, you've got Dresden, PPM, Shearholz, and the company we're going to be looking at most of today is the Rheinisch Porcelain Manufactory. And that's the producer of the steins you're looking at up here. It was started by a name of Oscar Burke, which was 1861 to 1882. It was then taken over by a gentleman named L. Herman, operated from 1882 to 1905. Now we do have a mark from the L. Herman area, period of time that he was operating. I've never been able to find a mark from the previous owner, but we have to assume that by looking at the difference in the steins, the one that has the mark is much more highly glossed. And I think one that was in the auction last year that Jim purchased also had a very high gloss that had the mark on it. So I would only assume it's both manufacturers mixed into these, but we've never seen a mark for the other one. They, besides this, they also manufactured household decorative porcelain, lamps, many different things like that, but I've never been able to find that mark in anything else. But they were in business a lot of years. I'm sure that does exist. And I'll be showing slides showing close-ups of the marks so you get an opportunity to look at all that. So we're going to get into the slides now. And the main thing you need to remember is the 17th, 18th century. You're getting a snapshot into the lives of our ancestors, their clothing, the furnishings in their homes, some of the lifestyles, and there's a few surprises in here for you. I think you're going to see some things in the bottom of these steins you really didn't know existed and you were told didn't exist in the bottom of the steins. So there'll be different examples as we go through here. Okay? Okay, maybe we can start the slides, please. First, I want to show you some slides that you're much more accustomed to seeing. The regimental stein, we've all seen the Lithophanes are in the bottom of the regimental stein. They're much thicker than what we're going to be showing you later on. And I think the reason that they are thicker in these type of steins is you got a pound of beer every time you set this down. And that's an awful lot of weight on a thin lithophane. Some of these you're going to see, and you will see up here, are almost tissue paper thin to get the type of quality that we're looking for. But on this type of regimental stein or an occupational stein, you'll see the lithophane is very, very thick, which makes it cloudy. Less light comes through, so you see less detail. Next slide, please. That shows you an example of what you'll see ordinarily on the regimental stein, something that reminds the soldier of home, either his girlfriend or hunting or something like that. Next slide. Of course, we have the occupational stein, the baker. Next slide. And again, the same type of scene. And we got the traveling mason. Of course, these things, as most of you know, these things all are meant to remind them of home. There's an example of what happens when you got a pound of beer and you set it down too hard. You get a lot of cracks and spiders in, and which is one of the reasons I'm sure that they made them thicker. It's very difficult, and some of the other side you'll see will have some spiders in it. Now we get into the better quality lithophane. The much Kindle, then you see, of course, the 6 gate of Munich. A little slower on the side. Now we get into the shear bolts again. It's just a beautiful lithophane that they put out. And I'll be showing you some colored examples that Shearholz did also. They're the only other company that I've been able to locate that did colored lithophanes, and they only did 2 examples. This slide and the next one, please. Both have the same lithophane. And that's the lithophane that goes in the bottom. Now there's our extra barrels that you haven't seen before. I just washed them before John took the picture, and they're bubbles at the bottom. Anyway. Now you get into the ones that Shearholz did that had colored lithophanes. This is a bowling ball stein. It's not the one you normally see that has a bowling ball thumb web. This young man has his hands to his mouth. You can probably think of all kinds of things he's yelling, but some of them we probably don't want to repeat. But they also made the bowling pin stein, which I don't have on the slides, but I have an example of over here. And the bowling pin stein has a bowling ball thumb web. So, and both of those have colored lithophanes, and they're the only example of colored lithophanes I was ever able to find. And I bought this many years ago in Andre's auction, and it was just listed as a lithophane. I thought, boy, this is great. Nobody seems to notice it's a colored lithophane, because I could tell by the boy on the top. So I got it. He was right. It had never been colored coming out of the factory. So it was a lithophane. But fortunately, I did have another example of it, but this one was just so pristine, even though the color wasn't on the lithophane. Next slide. And that is the colored lithophane that appears on both the bowling pin and the bowling ball. It's the only example that I know of. Next slide. I want to show you this. This is an actual lithophane. This was made by PPM, and this was painted as an artist would paint a portrait, which is totally different from what we're going to be showing you today. And I put this in so that you can see the difference in two ways of painting. This was painted on the front, and it was painted as a portrait. It's just absolutely beautiful lithophane. Now we're going to get into some of the decorations that are on the body. I have to thank Dagmar Reeves, who did the translations for me, but I've got to find a way to read the translations too. Is Dagmar out there? Maybe she just do it now? I don't think so. He who does not like drinking, singing, okay, will never reach true joy. And I will show the front of that sign. Next slide. Even though some truths may not be complete, one can never drink too much, but one never drinks enough. And this is the front of that sign. We have gangrenas, of course, and staff, and it's absolutely a beautiful, beautiful work on that. Very nice highlighting on it. Excellent. Now that's a different, this is a variation of the same sign, different color, same words on it. Better beer and smoke than swallowing your troubles and being angry. That's how to get rid of your moodiness. And that's it. front, of course, of that sign. Another variation of the same one, same wording. Now we get into one that's, it stands for the unification of Germany. And this was the, back up there, John.
Yes, sir.
This is the new flag. This is the new flag of Germany. If you look at the cavalier close, his shoes look new, his clothes are new, his sword is in its sheath, very short beard, looks very young and just ready to go. Next slide. Now you start to look at the other cavalier. He's sitting on a stool. I don't know if you can see that very well. His legs, his ankles are all swelled up. His clothes are not nearly as nice. He's got a long beard, much older, but a very proud individual with his sword at the ready, representing old Germany. Next slide, please. And of course, that completes that. And that was after the Franco-Prussian War, 1871, and it was the unification, the Northern Confederation, and the Southern German states. It's the same, it's a different variation. Again, you might be able to see the stool a little bit better, and his knees look like they're going to give out on him, but that's the same as the first one. He who does not like, drink, and singing will never reach true joy. And that's the Alpine dancers. That's one of my favorites. I just think it's just a beautiful sign, beautiful work on it. Man learns to drink first, much later than to eat. Therefore, out of thankfulness, we should not forget to drink. I like these. Shoots and weasel. There's a number of variations on those. Now we're going to get into the mark. This is the RPM. The line is standing, leaning on the anchor, and you'll see the LH, which stands for L Herman. This is where it was located, Oberkassel. This is from an atlas of 1898. It's very close to Bonn, Germany. And all of it, it's a lot of small towns surrounding it. Next slide, please. Next, we, okay, always have trouble with this. And there we are. There's Bonn, Oberkassel is gone. This is an atlas of 2004. There's no longer a community by the name of Oberkassel. It's disappeared. Bonn being such a large city and being the capital for so many years, you can only assume that it probably just absorbed it.
No, it's still there.
It's not there?
It's still there.
It's still there?
Yeah.
My goodness, it's not in the atlas.
Maybe it's a very small city.
Oh.
Maybe it's not on the big atlas.
But it is still there?
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah. And now what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to start with the Lithophanes, and we're going to look at the body of the sign. Now we're showing again just before. This is actually the bottom of the sign, Lithophane you were just looking at. We'll back up again. Let's bring it down.
Wow.
And this picture is just a beautiful picture. And John did all the photography, most of you assume that, but John developed the process of putting black paper inside so we cut down on the glare. So it really does help to get the colors to come through. Next slide. There it shows the way it was painted. The reason I was showing you earlier the way the colored lithophane was painted, that was painted as a portrait. This, I think, was painted by a light source. It was held to the light source and it was painted kind of in a blind with using shadows, the shadows of the paintbrush in order to know where you were. Again, we have the Cavalier and the Barmaid. And this is a monk and a maiden, just an absolutely fabulous lithophane. Now, we do find those lithophane on some other porcelain signs. I've seen it numerous times. Of course, it's never been in color. But the lithophanes that this company did, or whether this company did them, or whether possibly KPM made the lithophane, they're just done with such quality. And tissue paper thin. Now you see the way that you can see the monk's coat, you can see the body of the young lady. We'll go back again, John, so they can see the picture now again. I think it's an amazing process, the way they did this with just kind of smearing colors on. With such getting them to get to the right places. Go ahead. And we have, of course, the invocation again. And this was the very first one that I purchased in 1985 at the New York auction. We thought it was just such a beautiful lithophane at the bottom of it, and had paint on it. Little did we know how much that was going to cost over the years, or I was going to start an entire area of a collection. But it was just such a beautiful lithophane. And over the years, I've been able to get some other examples of this lithophane. So if you notice, it's very pastel. Go ahead. And look at the bottom. Very, very little paint. And I ask you to remember what this bottom looks like. So you realize they didn't, it must have been up to the individual artist how they painted these. Next slide, please. There's another example. Just an incredible picture. And that's the bottom. Now you can see the outline of the lady and the cherub. But this is the bottom, the way this one's painted. Nothing like the other one. And the paint's not worn off of the other one, because they're glazed over, and that stein is glazed. So you can see that the paint wasn't worn off. It's just a totally different paint style, or painting style. There's one more example of it. Schizonism, and a number of examples of that also. If you notice, most of the lids are pretty much the same. The conical lid, a little variation in them, a little different thumb width, but basically the same style of lid. And this one, just one of my favorites. I just think it's fabulous. You've got the anchor, the young boy standing up on the box, the grandfather or great-grandfather. He's got the large stripe down his leg, got his sword at his side, the young man with his telescope. We've got 3 tall ships out there, and another whole family with telescopes over here. And there's other things there I've never been able to quite recognize, but I think it's just beautiful work. When you think of creating that in beeswax and making a plaster mold, and then coloring that in, it's just phenomenal work. And that, you can see the grandfather, his father. I'm not able to make an awful lot else out on the bottom of this one, but they knew where to put the color. I've come up with 6 different decorations is what I've been able to find over the years, body decorations. That being one of them. Of course, you'll see all 6 of them in here. And here we have people to wishing well. Totally different lithophane than I've ever seen at the bottom of any steins, but not wishing well, just at a well. Stonework goes all around, and the dog sitting down here looking like he'd really like to have a drink. And I'm not sure exactly what these two are doing, but I think they forgot about the water. And that's the bottom of that sign. And if they didn't do it with a light source, I don't know how in the world you would ever paint something like that. So, well, no, I was just going to say it couldn't have been painted as a portrait. It had been used as a light source and been able to put the color where that artist felt it was necessary. Okay, this is a beautiful one again. She's out in a field someplace or a hill. She's putting flowers in her hair, braiding her hair, putting flowers in. Again, the hillside back here. And here you can see her braid and some of her hair. And other than that, one thing you need to notice about them is the old Germany has just as full of beer steins as the new Germany. And this again is one of my favorites. It's worn, just beautiful clothes. And again, you can see her dress here. And I have trouble making out much more on that one. And this guy, I have no idea why anybody would have put him in the bottom of the sign. He looks like a sign collector who couldn't get into the room. The only reason I can think of for having him on the bottom of the sign is that you always keep a full stein. And there he is. He's mostly in black and white. He must have meant something. Beatrice, would you have any idea what he meant?
No.
Okay. This one, of course, again, just a beautiful picture. We have seen this on pottery signs, this picture in color, but I've never seen it in a lithophane before, especially not in color. Merkelbach and Wick has it on one of their signs. I've seen it on at least one other pottery sign. And now you can make out the gentleman pretty much, and see the lady here. See the way the coloring is done. And here's the surprise. Here's what we all were told: as long as we collected signs, they don't exist. Well, she does exist. And when I first found it, and I have some different examples of this, but when I first found this one, I thought, now how did they get by with this at those times? And I thought at first, these kind of look like they might be wings. I thought, okay, maybe they said she's a fairy. So, oh dear, I bought this sign, it has a fairy in it. But I don't know if that would have worked or not, but I thought at least that's something. I could not think of any other way they could get by with this. But look close at her. Her eyes are open. She has a little bit of a smile on her face and in the background. Next time. Now you see the body, the way it's painted. You can see the full body outline. Now look at this one. This must have been an extremely popular lithophane. And we should have come up with this a long time ago. This is a totally different lithophane. It's designed after the last one, but her eyes are closed. There's no longer a smile. And some of the background has changed. And Pardon me?
Not the ferry.
It's not the ferry. The wings are pretty much gone. So it seemed to me that they did change her. Obviously, she must have been fairly popular because yeah. But I thought it was fascinating. At first, I thought I had the same sign, and I realized that her eyes are completely different. And there's one more example in here then.
We're drinking your beer quickly.
Of course, now you can see the difference in the way this one was painted and the last one was painted. Much more pastel. Now here's another example. And this is pretty much the same as the last one, a little bit different coloring.
She gets from tavern to tavern, doesn't she?
Yeah. Next slide. And this shows the body again. Again, a little bit different painting than on the bottom. So I'm sure this was up to the discretion of the painter. As long as it looked good. Go ahead. Now you see the lady in her dressing room. She's looking in the mirror, and you'll see there's a few little, I like to think they're cracks in her mirror. They couldn't be in my Lithophanes, they have to be in her mirror. So, there are a few hairlines in this one. She's looking at her shoes. If you can look, she's got the dresser behind her, she's leaning on a chair. And it's hard to make much at all out of this from the bottom. And this one is just a beautiful, beautiful picture. Of course, this is a spa. You can see the stairs back there, there's boats. There's a spa water. There's a wall here behind them that they're leaning against to get the cherub. We believe this could be Venus. Maybe it's just two ladies at the spa. Again, that's the way that's painted. And this guy, he's not as bad as the last guy, but I can't quite understand this. It's obviously a doorway with a cutout. He's got his night clothes on. And what he's got in his hand, possibly a snuff box. I can't come up with anything. I tried to look at it every way possible to figure out what that is. I have no idea what he's got there unless it's a snuff box, but it doesn't quite make sense to me that he's offering snuff with his night clothes on. So, well, it looks a little small for snuffs, but it sounds better than snuff. So, and there you see, of course, there you can see his face, his arms. This is just a beautiful, beautiful work on this. Beautiful highlights, the staff, again, bringing this beautiful colors. And she's just, again, just very lovely. She's sitting on the hillside. You see the trees back there, trees over here, and just sitting there dreaming, obviously. And that's the bottom of it. And gangrenous. And these gentlemen, testing the wine and telling a lot of tall stories, I'm sure. They don't look like they're just drinking wine. I think they're talking about somebody's Lithophanes. So they've, there's an awful lot to look at in this picture. The clothing, the leather apron, he's holding his cane here. They both have their walking staffs. There's just so much in the clothing.
I think they're toasting the nude who happens to be off to the left.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's also, I think it's pretty fascinating to look at their shoes. It truly is a snapshot in our history. But, and that's what you see on the bottom. And that's a grouping of 12 just put together so you can see some of the bodies and so forth. And that concludes my talk. And I want to thank John for all his work on these slides and Dagmar, of course, for doing the translations.
Clarence,
Thank you very much. I'll take questions.
to recap, these are all, again, fired, is that correct?
Yes, yes, these are all fired, and then of course they're fired to make a lithophane. It's fired at 1150 degrees Celsius, and when they're painted, they're refired again at a much lower temperature and a shorter period of time. There are a couple of these that were not after they were painted. They're not glazed over top. But the majority of them were. The majority of them have a glaze over top of the painting.
Will the paint come off if it's not glazed?
If it's not glazed, yeah, it would come off over the years with the annual.
Was it any special kind of paint they used to do the coloring, or was it more of an enamel? Or?
It's translucent. You know, it's a. You can look at it, and Sharon can probably tell you exactly what it is. They're extremely hard to find. Extremely hard. I know of about, besides what I have, I know of about 10 or 12 that are out there that I know of. I'm sure there's a lot more, but that's what I know of in people's collections. 1, 2. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe I missed it, but that beautiful color lithophane that you see looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
how does that paint, like my 4-year-old granddaughter does, on the bottom, translating those nice lines?
That's, you know, the way I feel they did it, they used a light source. The Hadlerstein, they used a light source. They used a light source, and they used the shadows of the paintbrushes to follow where they were going to work. And it was, you know, they could see from this end how much color they were putting on.
Well, why doesn't it translate on the bottom with the same lines that are on the
I think this is a Lithophanes.
The shading is there. That's exactly it. The shading is in black and white, and as you add these, you know, some places you can look at this where there may be, say, a bright green, and it may be in this large of an area. I only see it in this big of an area, simply because the porcelain is thicker there, and the light's not allowing it to come through. Yeah.
So if all the color was taken off the bottom, all you would see by looking through it would be the shading.
That's all you would see would be the shading, yes.
So all the color is on the bottom.
All the colors in the bottom. Yes, sir.
I was told that they had like a table, a light underneath the table, so they put it over the light source, and then the light came up and they could work on it. And just a little bit of paint in the right area was produced that result.
That's what I was saying. You have to use this light source. But now, you know, you couldn't paint it when it's sitting on the table. So it had to be a light source that was up. And
The table, you put the sign upside down on the table, before the lid is on. The sign is upside down over the light source. You got a table with a hole in it and a light underneath the hole. And then the sign goes on top of the table, so the only place the light is coming up is through the lithophane. And you're looking at the lithophane from the bottom as the
well, I guess it could have been done that way.
there was a museum of lithophane in Dayton, Ohio. No, Blair was at it.
Yeah.
A great collection. And that was one of the articles where people went up to the
But it could have been that way. I've looked at it myself with lights, trying to get an image to come through that way, and I didn't have much luck. When you hold it up to a light source and use the shadow technique, and I'm only going by what seemed to make sense to me. I'm sure Mr. Blair probably knew a lot more about it. He had a great collection out there. I never read that, but that could have been the way they did it. That's correct. That does work, and that's why you don't see any of the little cracks in there, because they all have a certain amount of lines in them. Yes, buddy.
What time period are those steins from? I missed that.
The time period of the steins themselves are 1861 to 1905. Yes.
Something about the one that is used to make.
I'm sorry?
All where antique shows and all.
Yeah.
Right. Who makes those new ones today?
There's a company in New England that manufactures them. Cindy, do you remember the name of that company? There's one in, I think it's in Maine. I don't know of any other ones that are doing it. There are some out there, but I don't know the names of them. But there are companies that manufacture them.
Shareholders made them also, and when the shareholder company went out of business, the day before we took the group to see the factory, there was a person there that had all the holes and they were still making them.
For the lamps?
Yes.
Oh. Sherwolf made lamps then, right?
No, they were making the little orange little paint, squares.
Right. Very good. All right. Any other, John?
What's the cost of the,
One of these? Any place right now from 1,000 to 1,800. Depends. Yeah, depends on whether or not it's a live auction. Thanks. And it depends on how much somebody wants to run me up. I try not to let too many of them get away, but it does happen sometimes. Right, Jim? Yes.
Do you know of any cases where someone's trying to take a sign with a normal logo and now change it to massive resolution to the normal logo?
I don't know of any cases of that. Dagmar Reeves is quite an artist. She tried doing it with the light sources and didn't have a lot of luck with it, and just tried it with paints and just broke it back off. She's not quite sure how they did it because she didn't have a lot of luck with it. Yes.
what's the way to read it?
Lithophanes. Yeah. Yes.
On one of the steins, there were four, almost like blocks, it was part of the porcelain, almost like blocks that came in. On one of the pictures underneath, when you showed the bottom of the stein, there were four porcelain, it almost looked like blocks that came in, a little bit over the lip.
Oh, yeah, there was a couple of them that have felt panel on it. Yeah. From 2003. Yes. Yes. Anybody, any other questions? Yes, Kim Paul. Yes, the SCI website has a colored lithophane on it now, one of Jim's, which that's very disappointing. They should be in my collection, but Jim has a couple. He was fortunate enough to find one at a meeting, so they are out there. He went to one of his own chapter meetings and picked it up off the table. So, and he got another one after that. So there are people in the club that have some examples of these. But it's on the website, it's a sign of the month, and Ron Gray did an article on the website for it. Yes, Spence has one also, by the way.
Actually, it's my son's. A lady offered it to him for $250.
Isn't that a shame?
He found that, and he has also found one that is not painted. It's the same one that you have that you can't figure out, we can't figure it out either. Where the gentleman reaching through the porthole or but now he has one that's unpainted, and he actually has one that is painted. So it's kind of interesting. It's a good mix.
He has an unpainted one in this file?
unpainted, of the man pushing through the portal over there.
Yeah. So that's, I've not heard of any of these that came out. I'm sure they were. That's good to know. Yes.
You showed us only one, I believe, that had all the way to the line.
Yes.
That's probably rare, right?
Yes. Jim has one with a mark on it. I have a total of 2 with marks on it. After we got one with a mark on, went back and looked at all the old signs because they did the mark in green. Where is it here? They did. Oh, which one is this? No. But they, it's the Cavaliers. Here. They did it in green, which was almost the same green as the colors are in the bottom. So I did go back and I found one that had the mark on but was smudged very badly, but I could make out the RPM. But this is not the same RPM that had a company in Berlin. So I want to make that clear
Does
also.
that make it more extremely rare and accessible to all?
Yeah, I'm sure with the mark on, they are. They're very, like I said, that's only 3 examples I know of. Do both yours have the mark? Yeah, just one. So I don't know of any other ones that have a mark on, but I'm sure they're out there.
First, when you say RPM, is that the wrench the porcelain manufacturer?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
I was looking for Sharon Rudolph, and I don't see it. I just wondered if, has anybody told you about the painting style on the bottom? Is that a watercolor? Is that a
Well, that's what Bader was just asking too, If it's a translucent paint, of course, I don't think it's a watercolor. Dagmar, can you? You're not sure either?
I don't think so.
No.
There's no watercolor.
Yeah. It seems like it's just,
It seemed to me that it would be something other than if you made a mistake, you'd be able to correct it. Well, you know what I mean?
a lot of the mistakes were corrected by the depth of the porcelain.
It's the porcelain color.
Yeah. That's really what solved a lot of problems. You get the paint someplace close in the area, smudged it a little bit, it wasn't noticeable because the porcelain was thick there and didn't allow very much light to come through.
Yeah.
The glaze is glass. Ron knows what the thing is. Yeah, but Ron knows about glassware, and he knows that they do enameling on glass. And there's, we talked about some transparent
Yeah.
It seems to be the same color they used to do the porcelain painting.
I think so
But it's
too.
very thin,
Yeah.
so it's not highly enameled, but it's the same color.
It's
A lot of the paint was sprayed.
It had to be resistant to the firing, so.
Had to be, yes, because this was refired afterwards and replaced. Now you will find that there's some here that were not glazed afterwards, but the majority of them were.
Isn't that a China tape they use on there?
It could be.
Sure they were fired after they were painted again?
Yeah. Yeah.
They fire the ones that I remember when I was they don't fire them.
Pardon me?
Have to be glazed in order to be refired.
Well,
Yeah.
No.
You can see that these signs, after they were painted, were glazed and had to be refired. So everything but that also goes for your colored Lithophanes that were just painted like a portrait. From everything that I could read anywhere, they were all fired a second time at a lower temperature and for a much shorter period of time.
they are fired a second time, but not necessarily with a second glaze on it. The colors contain a certain amount of powder glass, so this makes it feel like a glaze, but it doesn't have to have a second glaze.
That's, yeah, very good.
And firing, the color, the enamel melts
Right.
and bakes together with the porcelain body. So it's,
They can't hear me.
I just thought, I think it doesn't have to have necessarily a second glaze, because this porcelain color contains a certain amount of ground glass, powdered glass,
So when firing these colors, they melt and they bake together with the porcelain body. So when smoothly scratching with the finger or touching with the finger, I think there's no glaze on top, like a nail coat or the glaze. I think these colors these are the porcelain colors, very thin porcelain enamel, and they have to be fired. Yeah, this one, I agree, this is a glaze, but most of these don't have an additional glaze.
That was one of the points I was making too. It was one of the points I was making, that the ones that have the marks on show a little bit of different processing. Much higher glaze on the outside. The examples I saw that Jim has, this example here is much more glaze and much heavier glaze on these. And that shows on the bottom then also. And the other ones, there's different ones that appear that are not glazed at all. And obviously, it's just the paint.
The thing that really gets me is the technique they have to use. Not make the striping too wide or too narrow because they're going to miss where they're going to go. Because obviously it's going to run a little bit. And,
Sure.
You look at these and they're very small marks, and yet inside is much different inside.
Yeah. Okay, next thing, of course, is if anybody finds them, let me know.
I also have a bit of a theory that you can either accept or reject in my lifetime of studying images, and the question continually comes up, how can you nudge it around in the bottom, and it's sharp when you look at it. Part of that, in my humble opinion, is the marriage between the brain and the eye. We want it to be sharp, and therefore it becomes sharp. And you can accept that or reject it, but that's one of the reasons that I think when we look at it, it looks perfect.
Just one short, important announcement. I just learned about 10 minutes ago that the hotel has kindly changed the rooms on us for roundtable discussions. Yeah, well, at least they